Hello, thanks for coming out today. It's a beautiful Sunday here at Hostelling International. Welcome back to the New York Travel Festival. I am very excited to have our afternoon keynote. Tell you a little bit about him, our Aaron, and Lauren Orlola. Ladies.
Thanks for the applause, everyone. So we wanted to announce the keynote speaker, Lee Abbamonte.
Lee is the youngest American to have visited every country, and without further ado, here is Lee.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey.
Thanks for coming out. And before I start, I just wanted to acknowledge Ronnie and say thanks a lot, buddy. You did an amazing job with everything. I mean, he started this all by himself last year, and all the volunteers, Michelle, everybody else, you guys are doing an awesome job. Anyway, so, yeah, the youngest American to visit every country in the world. That's kind of cool, huh? So, you know, it's basically how I launched my whole business and basically what I do now. I mean, it never started out as my intention to do that. But before I tell you, like, how I got to where I'm at now and how I did that, I'm going to tell you actually about the last country I visited. So there's 193 sovereign nations in the world, like UN member states, and I was sitting on 192 in March 2011, and my plan was to do a trip where I was going to hit my last like 4 or 5. It was like romantic countries of Somalia, Sudan, Algeria, and Libya. So, and I asked a lot of, I asked some people to go with me, nobody wanted to go, Sean. So basically what ended up happening was I did the trip. I flew to a place called Djibouti, and it's Djibouti, and so I went to Somalia, went up to Sudan, went to Algeria, and then the plan was to go to Libya, and that was going to be the 193rd country, and I was going to break this record, and that was it. Of course, in March 2011, something called the Arab Spring broke out, and the Libyan rebels rose up against Muammar Gaddafi. And so there was a no-fly zone. I mean, it was a war, so I was like, oh, fuck this, I'm not going. And even though I did want to, trust me. Anyway, so I called off the trip, and so I was stuck at 192. So from Algiers, I just flew back to Paris and then home. So fast forward to August of that same year in 2011, the war is still going on. And I get an email from a guy I know. I say that a lot. I got a guy in Cairo, Egypt, and he tells me, hey man, the rebels have taken control of eastern Libya, and you can actually sneak in through the western border of Egypt. I didn't even ask a question. I was just like, okay, next flight to Cairo. I literally got on it, and I'm like, okay, here we go. So I get to Cairo. I didn't know what I was gonna do. So I meet this guy, and he tells me like, sort of where I should go. So he tells me to take a plane to this random, like, remote outpost about 300 miles from the Libyan border called Mersa Mutua, which no one's ever heard of. And okay, so I do it. I didn't even ask a question. So I get out there, and literally I had no idea what I was going to do. I'm 300 miles from the border of Libya. I speak like 3 words of Arabic, and so I just get there. And then on the plane, I didn't talk to anybody, but I see this guy who was like wearing a suit, and he had an Libyan rebel lapel pin. Okay? So I get to the airport, I look around, like there's no signs in English, nobody looks, Western at all. So anyway, I take a shot and I go up to this guy. I was like, excuse me, sir, do you speak English? And he said, yes. And I'm like, oh, thank God. I'm like, do you think you can help me arrange like a taxi or a car to the Libyan border? And he goes, why are you going to Libya? And I tell him like what I'm doing. He goes, do you have any idea what you're gonna do? I was like, no man, I have no idea. I'm just gonna get there. I'm like, he's like, once you get out of Egypt, how do you plan on getting into Libya? I go, dude, I don't know. I don't know, I've done all this my whole life and I'm just gonna figure it out like I always do. He goes, all right, that's bullshit. So my brother is coming in a minivan from Tobruk, Libya to take me back. Turns out this guy, his name's Hussein, I'll never forget him. He was a Libyan dissident who had not been home in 41 years because of Gaddafi's reign. He had not seen his family in 41 years, okay? So this guy was flying from Montreal where he was living to get there. And he offers me a ride with his brother who he hadn't seen in 41 years, okay? They hadn't seen each other since they were kids. Anyway, so they're like, okay, come with us. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. So I get in, and we drive 300 miles. I offer them money for, transportation, gas, like whatever. They refuse to take money, okay? Okay? So we get out of Egypt, easy, no problem. But Libya, if you have any idea, it used to be a really complicated, difficult visa process, right? But now, since there's no government, there's no visa. So I had no idea what was gonna happen. So we get there to the border, and Hussein, we're about 10 cars back in the line to get in. Hussein turns to me and goes, okay, here's the deal. And I'm like, oh shit. And he goes, since you have straight teeth, we're gonna say that you're a humanitarian dentist coming into Libya to the dental work. I'm like, well, I appreciate the compliment, but I don't know shit about dental work. So, anyway, I'm like, yeah, man, whatever, okay, you just talk, and I'll just smile and nod, give my passport when he asks for it. Anyway, so we're 3 cars from the line to go through the border. When all of a sudden, on the other side of the border, like from Libya coming into Egypt, there's this massive truck, right? And if you've ever spent time in Africa, these trucks are like ungodly high. They're like 50 feet high, and what they do is they have a bunch of people on the top of the truck. So there was like 40 just random dudes just on the top of this truck. Anyway, they started arguing with the rebels, right? So what it ended up being was they were Chinese people, and I'm like, what the hell? What's going on here? And I didn't really think about it, but then what ended up happening was they were smugglers, right? So that entire truck was fake cigarettes that these Chinese smugglers were trying to smuggle into Egypt, okay? And under the old regime, they had to deal with the border guards, and so they would just come in, they'd do their little payoff, and then they'd get into Egypt, and they wouldn't have to pay the tax, which is why they went into Libya in the first place. So the rebels weren't having that, right? All of a sudden, these guys have guns. So the people on the top of the truck started shooting at the rebels at the border, which were like 15 feet away from me. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Then they start shooting back. So we're literally caught in the middle of a firefight, right? And I'm with these 2 Arab guys who I don't know. And I'm like, dude, back up. And I'm like, what do you do? Go. And they're like, oh, shit. So they just go back. And literally, the guy backs into the car behind him. And then there was this like kind of dirt thing on the side. So we back up like a half mile and just kind of hang out there for like literally 3 hours. The car got hit twice. I'm in the back like ducking down. I've never been shot at before, So that was pretty wild. So anyway, for 3 hours, we sat there waiting. Apparently some guys died on the other side of the border. We don't know, they just kind of cleaned it up. So 3 hours later, we go back up. We hop the line, we're actually the first one. Hussein has a UN passport, and he introduces me as a dentist, blah, blah, blah. The guy at the border, the Libyan rebel guy, he says, welcome to Libya. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Stamps my passport. I was like, no shit. So we get in there, and we go about another 2 hours to a place called Tobruk, right, which is, your World War I history. There's a famous battle there, and it's a really nice town. Anyway, so when we get there, this guy, again, he hadn't seen his family in 41 years. His mother is still alive, and lives with like 9 people in like a 3-bedroom apartment or whatever. So I was like, I really appreciate it, thank you so much, like this and that, can you help me get a hotel? And he's just like, no, I insist that you stay with me and my family. I'm like, I was saying, you haven't seen your family in 41 years, you just met me today. And he's like, you are like my brother, and I insist that you stay at my house. I'm like, befuddled, What do you even say to that? It's like, no one's ever been that nice to me. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's that nice. Anyway, so you can't say no, And ended up going in, meeting his family, staying with him and his family for a couple of days. I ended up doing a radio broadcast with a guy named Peter Greenberg, who I'm sure a lot of you guys know from inside Libya, as the youngest person to go to every country in the world. And that was pretty cool. If you're gonna break a record, I guess that's kind of the way to do it. And as just to finish up the story, on the way back, I needed to get back to Cairo like 4 or 5 days later, or whatever it was, and I didn't know how I was gonna do it, so I go to Hussein, I'm like, hey man, can you help me get a ride back to Cairo? I gotta catch a plane to Istanbul or wherever I was going. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I'll pay like whatever. I always travel with cash, so I'm like, whatever it costs, I'll do it. I just gotta do it because nonsense, my cousin's gonna drive you. So his cousin drove me, and he refused to take money, not for gas, not for food. He wouldn't split the driving. The guy drove like 14 hours straight. He only stopped for gas twice, and that was it. Unbelievable hospitality. But that's the type of thing that you find and experience when you travel the world. And it's like living, right? Everyone thinks these people are horrible, right? It's kind of like Iran or, something like that. It's like the government might suck, but the people are some of the, they're like the salt of the earth, like some of the nicest people I've ever met. So when people ask me where the nicest people in the world are, I say Libya. It shocks the shit out of people, but truth be told, that's it. Never been treated so well. So that's how I got my last country. Now, when I first started traveling, I never traveled as a kid. My family didn't have any money. A lot of people think I come from family money. That's completely untrue. I started a paper route when I was 6 years old. Okay, I got a paper route, Bridgeport Post in Trumbull, Connecticut, which is where I'm from. And I delivered papers. I wasn't strong enough to ride my bike and throw the papers on the lawn until I was about 7.5. So for the first year and a half, I'd have my parents drive me around and I'd just toss it, and I thought it was so fun, I'd walk up, put it in the mailbox, and then I started on the bike. And when I was 9, I started a landscaping company called Lee's Landscaping. Brilliant name. And literally, I took my father's lawnmower and I just went and mowed lawns, I raked leaves, shoveled snow. Then I had literally all my friends kind of working with me, and we were doing like an 80-20 split, like when they did it. I'm not even kidding, I had like 20 guys working for me. And so built up a pretty good business, and I actually sold that business like when I went to college to like a contractor in my town. So then I went to college, and I had still never been out of the country. I hadn't even been to Canada or Mexico or anything. And I did a couple of various jobs which I sucked at, like worked at Abercrombie. And I got fired because I was a shitty folder. They always wanted you to wear Abercrombie clothes, and I hated Abercrombie clothes. I just went there because I thought it'd be a great place to meet girls, And so then I started an internet business after my junior year in college, and ended up selling that when I was 21 years old. But what ended up happening when I was 20 was my best friend Mike, right? He was going to go study abroad in London. I'd never been out of the country, and we were in a fraternity, we were having a good time, and I'm like, Mike, why are you gonna go to London? What are you gonna do there? He goes, I don't know, it's just gonna be fun, something different, something to do, get out of the mold. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. That doesn't sound like fun, having too much fun, drinking and partying, and going to games, and doing this and that, like college kids do. So, I remember just kind of thinking about it for a while, and I remember calling my dad up, and I was just like, Dad, Mike's going to London, what do you think of that idea? He's like, why do you want to do that? And I'm like, all right, fuck this, I'm going. And that was it. So I basically just went on a whim. And I remember landing in Heathrow Airport and looking for a taxi to take me to where our apartment, where we were staying, our flat, And I was like, wow, they drive on the other side of the street. Holy shit, they really do that. And you get me oh, that accent is real. Holy cow, that's not just TV, they're not just actors, Blew me away. 2 weeks later, we took a weekend, we hopped on the Eurostar, it was just right after it opened, and this is 1998, and got to Paris. Holy shit, they speak French. Oh my God, they really do, they don't speak English. Blew my mind, The Eiffel Tower, it's real, holy cow. Anyway, and I was just blown away. And so that year, ended up just taking a lot of 4 or 5 day trips all around Europe. Did 15 countries in that year. You know how Europe is, you kind of just hop around from place to place. And London's a great base. And just had the most amazing time. Anyway, fast forward and I did a trip to Asia, a big trip to the Middle East, to Scandinavia, did another backpacking trip around Europe. Ended up going to South America, where I actually had a business based in Venezuela, of all places. So around there, and then I traveled around South America and the Caribbean. We moved the business to Costa Rica, so I ended up traveling around Central America. Before I knew it, I'd been to a ton of places, and without even really trying. So after I sold the internet company, I didn't know what I was going to do, because I love to travel. I had some money. I didn't know what to do. I thought I was supposed to get a job, so that's what I did. I got a job in a company called Cantor Fitzgerald. One World Trade Center, okay? So that was in the summer of 2000, and we all know what happened the next year, and you know, that affected me. The company that I had worked for lost 658 people that day, the largest loss of life in 9/11. So that really affected me. One of my best friends died, the girl who I was like dating died, like everyone I worked with pretty much. So that just basically gave me impetus to kind of like live my life and, you know, do whatever I wanted. It wasn't just travel, it was like all facets of life. It's like, you know, life is short, you know, do what you want. And, you know, just do your thing because you never know what's gonna happen. So basically that's what I did. I worked for a couple months afterwards, and then I just kind of had it. I was just like, you know, struggling mentally, and I just needed like a redone, you know, just start over basically. So I convinced my other best friend Jake to quit his job too, and we went traveling. We went to South America, Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji for like almost 2 years. Just basically got a car in Australia and just drove around and saw like pretty much everywhere you heard of in Australia. And New Zealand, same thing. We just did like skydiving, bungee jumping, and whitewater rafting, climbing. I mean, it's literally all we did. And, you know, just did the hostel thing. You know, we were like 22, 23 years old. And it's funny, I mean, the evolution of my travels, like in the beginning, were, you know, staying in places like this, like hostels, and then even in the beginning, when I actually had some money, I mean, it was fun because, you know, you just stay in hostels, you meet people, you have people to hang out with, to party with, share stories with. And as I got older, it kind of evolved. Like then I would stay in like, you know, guest houses and mid-range places, and now as it works, I do pretty much only like, you know, high-end stuff, which is nice now that I get paid to travel. And it's kind of funny how it evolved, you know, but I've seen it go through the evolution in basically my 15, 16 years of traveling. So after that, we got back, and I went back to work on Wall Street. I didn't know what I was going to do, so I was just like, okay, I'm supposed to get another job. So I did. I got a job at a company called Citigroup, which is a pretty big company. I did really well, really well. I made a lot of money, and I was good at my job, but I hated it, and I hated other people telling me what to do. So in 2006, I did this big trip in East Africa, and Jake and I, my friend, we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. We did all these safaris all over, you know, East Africa. Went to the beach, and I was just like, oh man, I just wish I could do this, you know, like full time, and you know, not have to go back to work and like listen to the man essentially. Anyway, so a couple of weeks later, I literally got an email that there was a record to be the youngest person to go to every country in the world. And at the time, I'm like 26, 27 years old, whatever it was, and the record was like 37 years and some change, and I'm like, dude, I can do this, you know? Like, I got 10 years, like, you know, I have some money, I have some time, and time and money are the two great equalizers in travel. You know, either you have one, or you don't have the other, or vice versa, and so it's hard to do it, you know? You need both, and you need the inclination in order to go to all the countries. So I just decided to do it, and I did it. And in 2006, I launched my website, Abbamonte.com. And but I just did it just to document like my travels. Like I wasn't trying to make any money with it or anything like that. I just did it for fun, basically. And in 2008, I just kind of had it with corporate life, and I quit. And I was going to try to make money with travel, you know, with my website, and like make my own brand essentially, and this and that. And it was just a stupid idea. You know, what was I doing? And so to hedge my bet, I went and got an MBA. And it was fun. I went to a school called Thunderbird, which is #1 international business school in the world, believe it or not. It's in Arizona. And so I was able to do that, got an MBA, and we had trimesters. So you had like 4 or 5 months off at certain clips, like when you took it to, you know, some breaks. So I was able to travel for like 4 or 5 months straight and really put a dent into all these countries. Like I did like overland trips from Mauritania to like Cameroon. I mean, it was like ridiculous, you know? So I hit like 16 West African countries in like 4 months, all overland. So you really get to, you know, see it, experience it, and do it. And just the experience of a lifetime, really. And, you know, I did another overland trip along the old Silk Route from like Western China all the way to Iran, you know, through all those stand countries that nobody knows how to spell. And some of the coolest places in the world, to be honest. basically it just evolved into that. So by the time I got the record and went to all the countries, I started getting some notoriety, and I was getting calls from like agents in Los Angeles, and like, you know, I started doing some local television in Phoenix and back here in New York when I was home. And so I started, you know, pitching television shows, and like I had an agent and a manager, a publicist, and I'm like, what's going on here, you know? So the first show that we pitched, that we actually made a pilot for, which was never seen on television, thank God, it was called Ticket to Love. Now let me explain to you the premise of this show. It was me traveling with 15 girls around the world, and I was supposed to eliminate them, kind of like a traveling bachelor show. And at the time, I was like, this is the best idea ever, you know? And then, you know, looking back on it now, I'm like, thank God that didn't happen. Jesus. So anyway, we filmed the pilot. It didn't get sold, thankfully. But at the same time, it kind of like launched me into doing more television and just doing different things like radio. And my manager, who I owe a lot to, who I've since fired, but she convinced me to start a Facebook page. And I was like, I don't want to go on Facebook. You know what I mean? It's not like what little kids do and like this and that. And anyway, so getting a Facebook page was like, for me, it was like one of the biggest things. And then I got on Twitter like 2 years later. I still hate Twitter, but Facebook, I think, is like the greatest invention ever. And what I always say is 15 years ago, I wish I had two things, Facebook and a digital camera. And the reason being is because Facebook, aside from, you know, for like my business, it's like a phone book that you can't lose. So it's like, think about how many people you met before you had Facebook that you lost touch with. Like you wrote down their phone number, address, or email on a piece of paper and you just lost it, you know? You're like, fuck, I wish I could get in touch with that person from like, you know, 10 years ago. But now you can, because you just don't lose that number, because you can. You can just always send them a message. Anyway, so, but like Facebook for business, a lot of people say that it's, you know, it's gonna go away. It's not going anywhere, okay? There's 1.2 billion people on Facebook and nobody in China, you know? Think about it. So they got like 1 out of 5 people on the planet is on it, and they just said something like they're launching satellites to like get internet to all the people who don't have Facebook. So I mean, it's like ridiculous, you know? So it's not going anywhere. And Facebook also has a longer shelf life than like Twitter. You know, because like people like, they comment, it goes back up to the top of your newsfeed, whether that annoys you or not. It's actually pretty good, especially for like a business page. Now, with regards to Facebook, I've tinkered with it a lot, and like, you know, I have a pretty active Facebook page. And people always say, well, Facebook's no good because like you have to promote your posts. Don't promote your posts on Facebook. There's no reason to. If you put up good stuff, it gets shared, it gets comments, whatever. Like last week, I had 2.4 million views on my Facebook page. 2.4 million, 35,000 shares, and like, I don't know, a ton of interaction, like comments and stuff like that. So you put up good stuff, you don't have to promote it because people promote it for you. That's the beauty of Facebook. Whereas like Twitter, which some people love Twitter, and I have no problem with that, but it's like, if, you know, the only people that are on Twitter all day are like bloggers, writers, PR people, right? So it's like normal people are not on Twitter all day, you know? And with Twitter, I feel like people just end up twittering to each other. You know what I mean? It's like the same people. You see these Twitter chats, and it's always the same damn people tweeting each other. So it's like, you know, what gets accomplished there was Facebook. The other thing about Twitter is people don't have to face. You can just have a random name. Not that you can't create a fake account on Facebook, because you can, but people are kind of accountable to what they write because their face and their name are right there. Whereas Twitter, your name can be like, you know, Jackass124. You know what I mean? You can pretty much write whatever you want. Your picture could just be an A. So Facebook is certainly not like that. So that's why I like that. But that's been a huge, powerful tool for me. Now, with what I do now, it's, you know, I hate the word blogger. Like, I never use that word. I don't consider myself a blogger. And if you blog, right, or write, or whatever, that's not like your only, that should not be your only business. People worry too much about, you know, blogging. I gotta blog, I gotta put stuff on my website, I gotta do new posts. People worry about traffic, all this stuff. I gotta get traffic, gotta get, you know, social media tweets and all this stuff. And listen, I've been there, I've experimented with a lot of stuff, but what I realized, like with my website and like what I do is I just use it as a resume. Okay, I use it as a resume for like other things that I do. So like if you look at my site, I have no ads on it. I don't do links, I don't do credit cards, I don't do like travel insurance or any of that stuff. I've experimented over the years with a couple different things, and I've seen what works and what doesn't work. And my model has been partnerships. Okay, partnering with brands. Now, what that does is it gives you, brand awareness for yourself because you cross-promote each other, and it gives brand awareness for the company that you work with. So what I do is either companies approach me or I approach companies and say like, hey, listen, let's sign a deal, whereas you basically pay me a monthly retainer, and we do it for 6 months, a year, whatever it might be, and this is how much I'm going to charge you. This is what I'm going to do. And this is what we're going to do. So I have 13 clients now who pay me between $1,000 and $3,000 a month. Now you can do the math, and that's simply by approaching companies. Now, it's not waiting for them to come to you, and it's not being afraid to be told no. The most important thing about making money as a travel blogger or writer or as a personality, or as I like to say, a multimedia travel personality, is not being afraid to be told no, not being afraid to say no, and most importantly, to ask for money. Okay, I get people all the time saying like, do you get paid for doing this? Hell yeah, I get paid for doing this. You know what I mean? It's like, why wouldn't you? If you do work, you should get paid. Now I'm doing this for free because I like Ronnie, but normally, for these things, I charge. So it's like speaking gigs. It's unbelievable what they pay for like an hour. It's like unbelievable, And but if you don't ask, they're not going to give it to you. Nobody wants to give you money. So you have to be unafraid to ask. And that's the biggest mistake I see people making. And obviously some people have different intentions with what they're trying to do. They might not actually want to make money. They just want to get maybe like free trips or like some free stuff or like whatever, and that's cool. If that's what you're after, that's one thing. But if you want to make it into a business, a sustainable business, has to be contract work, in my opinion. I mean, if you get like 10 million hits on your website, that's one thing. You can sell like a ton of like travel insurance or credit cards or whatever. But I mean, for me, it's kind of think big. It's like have few clients, so to speak, and do the big things. You know what I mean? Why do I want to sell travel insurance where I get like a commission of like $15 or like do an affiliate ad for somebody's book or something like that? It's just not worth it for me. Now, the other thing is you have to think out of the box as like a blogger or a writer or in any travel business. So, when I say partners, it's not just partners who, pay you like a monthly retainer. Like I work with international real estate firms, right? So I set people up, I go down and do tours essentially, people. And, if people buy real estate on my tour, I get a commission to that. If you buy a place in Belize or in Costa Rica, I mean, those are like $600,000-$700,000 houses. So, a 10% commission, you can do that math on it. It's good money. You know what I mean? These are the things people need to think of when they ask me how you make money. I say, well, there's a lot of ways. You know what I mean? It's not just like one thing. It's not like if you're a blogger, you just blog. Because that's the mistake people make. You have to be a business person. You have to be selling yourself. I think of myself essentially as a public relations agency in and of myself, of my brand, of Abbamonte. That's me. So I'm selling myself to sell to other people. And it seems, it's been working for me, but it's a lot of failures too. So it's like, not afraid to fail. Like some of my partners, won't renew their contracts with me, some I won't renew with them. But I'm constantly pitching new companies to work with, new apps, new, different tour companies, like whatever. Cruise lines nowadays are becoming popular. Trains, it's, you just don't limit yourself. And don't think like, oh my God, I gotta blog like 9 times a week. You know what I mean? I gotta put this up on Twitter, I gotta retweet this many people, I've been involved in that too, and it just doesn't work, so I kind of take myself away from that. You just focus in on what works for you, because there's no plan, it just works for everybody. Another piece of advice I always give people is television is so important. Like everyone talks about internet and media and all this stuff, and like YouTube and all this stuff. And yeah, that's really important stuff, right? And I wish I did more video. I don't know shit about audio and video and YouTube. I don't know anything about technology. Like literally, I have to call somebody up anytime I want to post something to YouTube because I don't know how to do it. I have my assistant do it. I literally have no idea. I don't even know how to fax. But what I know how to do is sell my stuff. And I know how to make money. I've always been good at that. And it's all about selling yourself, always. Whatever your brand is, whether your brand is you, whether you have a website, whether you want to have a website, whether you're starting a new travel tour company, like whatever it might be, you have to focus on selling yourself always. You know what I mean? It's like that always be closing mentality. I'm a Wall Street guy, so I come from that. And I'm not afraid of being told no, and I'm not afraid of people telling me like, fuck you, and I'm not afraid of any of that stuff. And you have to be unafraid to be told no and to say no. I can't tell you how many times I say no, and I'm like, wow, that's the best thing I've done, you know? Because just because somebody offers you something doesn't mean you have to take it. Some people get scared that they're not going to be offered something else. You know, if you partner with some company or a person or whatever, and it's not who you want to partner with, then what? If you sign a non-compete, then you're stuck, right? Or if you're not getting enough money, then you know you're stuck for X amount of time and you can't do other things. So you gotta take what you want, you gotta tell what you want, and if you don't get what you want, don't be afraid to say no. I mean, that's basically it. So, you know, that's just a little advice for, I know there's some writers and bloggers in here, and that's kind of how I did it. But I mean, it's a constant work in progress, and you know, just something that's constantly evolving. But it's important to do social media. It's important to get traffic. But I urge everybody who try to get into that sphere to focus in on different things, like do things like radio, but especially television. So like if you have a website, right, that gets like 5 million hits a year, that's great, right? Everyone's be thrilled with that. But if you go on television, if you're one of the morning shows, you have like 8-10 million people watching. You know what I mean? So whatever you're saying, you get a hell of a lot more people in 5 minutes than some website that gets 5-10 million hits a year. So think about those numbers, you know? So they put your, you know, your website handle, your Facebook, whatever you're talking about. So if you're selling some tour, you know, they're pretty happy with it, right? So it's just a couple things to keep in mind that I always tell people. Traffic's important, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff, but concentrate on doing different things because it's really incredible, like what can happen if you know, kind of branch out and think out of the box and don't just do the usual things. Oh, and the other thing is be interesting, you know? Do different stuff. Everybody's been to London, everybody's been to Paris, everybody's been to Thailand. You know, don't write about that stuff. You Google that, you get 10 million things about it. You know, do something different. You know, do something in a cool way. Just be interesting. Have a personality. Like, don't be afraid to have people think you're like crazy or a jerk or like whatever. Just do it. You know, who gives a shit? What's the worst that happens? You're not going to be put in jail. No one's going to kill you. Nothing like that. You just try stuff, and if it fails, it does. Anyway, that's enough pontificating about how to make money with your site. But I mean, in terms of travel, there's just so much out there to see in the world. And you know, it's not about going to every country. It's not like, you know, I think I'm like so cool because I've done it, because I don't even think it's that terribly impressive. It was just something I set a goal to do, and I did. I'm very goal-oriented, but what traveling to all the countries of the world has taught me more than anything is that people around the world are pretty much the same. And you know, people in Africa, like people in the Pacific or South America,